Today on the Path to Success podcast, I sit down with Josh Pitts, founder and CEO of National LED. Josh founded National LED over 12 years ago and grew it into one of the largest national distributors and installers of commercial and industrial LED systems. Josh is an avid angel investor and developer and investor in commercial real estate and residential real estate as well. Today we talk about barreling through some of the pitfalls of early entrepreneurship and then maintaining fun and building a personal brand after you've achieved great success in business. Less than 2 years ago, Josh founded National EV, one of the fastest growing installers of electric vehicle charging stations all across the state of Texas. If you want to learn more about becoming a successful entrepreneur and still maintaining a fun social life, listen in. Josh Pitts has a ton of insight and experience here for you. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Path to Success podcast. Today, on episode 2, I've actually got a good friend of mine. His name is Josh Pitts. Josh is the founder and CEO of National LED here in Houston. And over the last year, man, it looks like you've been blowing up in non-LED. Founder and CEO of National EV as well. Josh, welcome to the podcast studio. Give us the little 30-second elevator pitch, man. What do you do? Who are you? Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jeremy. My name is Joshua Pitts, founder and CEO of National LED. I've had that company for 12 years. Within the last year, we've launched National EV, which has had exploding growth and success. And I am here to share my story on the Path to Success podcast. I have promised, Jeremy, this will be the top episode for the next 100 episodes. So here we go.
The benchmark is high. You better watch out. I might have LeBron James on in episode 100. So, well, good. So first of all, what inspired you to become an entrepreneur, Josh?
Yeah, so this is going to tie in a little bit with my story, but it's good because it brings me back to humble beginnings. So I was raised in Louisville, Kentucky. My story is so full circle, but it starts with me living in a house that was the size of, it was a 2-bedroom house, 1 bathroom. And if you were running, you could jump through the front door and out the back door. So I lived in a very small house. I remember it being winter. I remember there being snow on the ground. I had a cracked window in my room, and I just remember it being cold. This is a true story. I'm 12 years old. The wind's blowing and I can feel it. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I'm ever going to put myself in this circumstance when I can change it for my own or for my family. And so I didn't know that meant that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know what that was going to lead me to, but I knew I was never going to go back to those humble beginnings that I had. And so, that was when I was 12. I'm 35 now, so it's been some time since that, and it's just all become really full circle for me.
Well, good. Well, very, very early on, so that was something that you realized at 12. What key factors or events happened very, very early on in your entrepreneurial journey that basically contributed to your early success?
Yeah, so I was 18 years old. I was pretty lost in life. I went to a really good private prep school, and during graduation, it was, this guy's going to Harvard and this guy's going to Stanford, and I really didn't know what I was going to do. So I had family. I moved down to Houston when I was 18. I ended up working. I had a very entrepreneurial role. I was really lucky. Had family that gave me a job that allowed me to kind of set my schedule, bid out jobs, and whether I'd win them or lose them, and then complete them within my own timeline. And then I learned how to invoice and bill. And I went to the University of Houston, and I got really lucky because my best friend, Jonathan Reed, was a really good light for me. He said, there's this program. It's the Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship. He said, you got to apply. You got to get in. And so that became my motive. From the time I was like 18 to 20, all I talked about was entrepreneurship because I looked up to this program so highly. So he applied, he got in, he graduated 2011. I applied, I got rejected. And rejection's not for me, Jeremy. I don't deal with rejection well. So I go up to the office and I just kept showing up every day, and I would see who was in there, and I started to learn who these people were. And I saw a gentleman, and he was an alumni, and he was in charge of something. I don't know what, but I told him, I said, man, I said, I did not get into the Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship. I said, it is my dream. It is my drive. It's the only thing that I'm focused on. I said, I need you to help me. And sure enough, he ended up giving me another interview, and I was accepted into the program.
There you go.
The program goes into story 2. I'll hold that off for a minute, but story 2 from the Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship on really makes a lot of sense, because it really led me to my first internship, to my first mentor. My first mentor got me to my second got me to my third, and everything really came full circle for me, and I was really lucky because Houston provided me those roots.
That's excellent, man. Thank you for sharing. So Jonathan Reed, is that JR? Is that the
JR,
guy who you
it's
do
JR.
real estate investing with?
Yeah.
Tell us about your real estate investing that you do.
Yeah, so JR's my best friend. I've known him on and off since I was 14 years old. I actually met him when I was working down here in the summers as a kid. So JR owns a real estate firm. We were actually roommates. He's got an incredible success story. He was working at a software company, got laid off, tried his hand at a couple of things, went into real estate, and he came to me one day and he said, "Hey, I need $100,000." And I'm thinking, no way. Your friend, your best friend, your roommate asks you for some money, you better say no.
Yeah.
And so he said, no. He said, it's a really good deal. Give me $100 grand and I'll give you back the 100 plus some within 3 to 5 days. I said no. So he starts doing these deals, and he starts, I think it's I'm not a flipper, I'm not in real estate on the end that he is, but it's the buy, hold, rehab, resell, rent out, whatever the strategy is. But he did a number of those deals, and he came back to me on number 10. And so now he's got a 7-figure line of credit with me. So I'm a hard money lender. So I take cash that I have that's just sitting idle in our business, and it's short-term convertible notes with a high interest rate. And so I love hard money loans. It allows me to be a little entrepreneurial in a different field, allows me to grow some of my cash without putting a lot of risk on it. And I trust the person I'm doing business with. Did I on day one when he asked for that first $100,000? Absolutely not. But the number one thing, if you're going to loan somebody money, don't loan it to friends, don't loan it to family. Those are 2 rules that I always would go by. And then third, lend it to somebody you trust. So an oxymoron, conflict of interest, but don't lend money to somebody you don't trust, even if there's a really, really high rate of return. And I've been really successful. I've never had a defaulted loan. I've been doing it for probably 3 years now, and we've cycled through a lot of cash in that time.
Excellent, man. Well, it's been inspiring to see you grow your portfolio assets and see your cash grow inside of that vehicle as well.
And so you probably about know my financials. I've seen yours. I've seen yours when we did the last business boot camp at my office. So tell me, what do you do for cash that's sitting on the side?
Yeah, so I've got a few million in T-bills. I think that the most honest person to hold your debt would be the United States government. I'm not getting 12 to 15% on those like you are, doing hard money, but I've done a few, short-term, very hard money, loans, but nothing in the 7 figures, right?
And you've also got a way larger payroll than I do, so.
Yeah, my payroll is about $100,000 a week, right? So, but when you're dealing with, our average fee is $54,000, right? I mean, you strike a few of those in a row in any given month, that creates some very, very sizable net profit, right? But
yeah.
Well, good. So, what resources do you utilize in order to generate new business ideas of verticals that you're going to explore into?
Yeah, so new business ideas can be dangerous. One thing that I know is that you know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. So if you want to make money, stay in the lane that you know. For me, I think about my job, my business, my sales 24/7, especially when I'm going to bed at night. One tip is to always keep a moleskin with you. I take my moleskin everywhere I go. You should also have a moleskin right next to your bed, because if you're like me or like 90% of the population, most of your thoughts will come to you late at night. I don't really try and generate anything new, because what I do isn't, it's not groundbreaking, it's not patented. I have a sales organization. We're really good at what we do. We sell a really strong product. And that's just the business that I'm in. So it's non-proprietary. Anybody could knock us off, but nobody has. We've put a lot of people out of business over the years because we've garnered so much of the Southern U.S.'s sales that, there's not enough room for everybody. And so for me, I'm not a person who tries to garner new business ideas as much as I really try and go with a laser-like focus to know, hey, here's what I'm doing, here's what I need to do, and here's how I can accomplish those things better.
So give me some insight into the best piece of advice that someone had given you, maybe any time in your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah. You're going to make the most money in what you know the most about.
Okay.
And I think that's good because so many people lose money when they get it. And it's because they try and dabble into other things. So just to give a quick story, when I was 20 years old, once I was into the Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship, Houston Angel Network was like my dream. Oh, I want to be an angel, I want to be a venture capitalist, I want to be in Shark Tank. If you read, those Shark Tank guys generally lose money on the deals they do. They do the show for notoriety, right? So I'm 20 years old, I'm trying to get into the Houston Angel Network, and they're saying, hey, students aren't allowed to come in. And I'm thinking, I want to come in to learn, like this could be something valuable for me. Fast forward, I'm 20-something years old, my net worth 7 figures. And so I joined the Houston Angel Network. I actually ended up doing a deal. I think the deal is going to work out very favorably for me. But so many of those guys that are in there will tell you how much money they've lost. And it's because they're throwing money at things they hope something good happens to. So they want 10 deals and they hope one strikes really rich. But those 9 deals they invested in, they have no idea what's going on with them. They don't know anything about the business, and they'll generally lose money. So you're going to always make the most money in what you know the most about. So try and stay laser-like focused on that path of what you're doing and try and make money doing that, not 10 other things.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I've got a quick story as well. So in the last probably 2 years, I've done 3 deals of angel investment. And it's funny because, I had a similar story whenever I was young watching Shark Tank saying, hey, I want to be an angel investor as well. And when I started to make a little bit of money, you put some into the stock market, you put some into real estate. Obviously, you reinvest a ton into your business. But the 3 businesses that I had done angel investment in all had one commonality. We were recruiting for the companies, and we were sending in executives that were interviewing there. And every single one of those executives was coming out saying, holy shit, this is an amazing opportunity. This company is going to completely disrupt and change the game. This is an amazing role. Please, Jeremy, please get it for me, right? And so that gave me the level of confidence of saying, hey, these guys are experts in their industry. Yeah. And then they're saying that these companies, right, are badass. And so it was a very easy conversation to go to the founder of the company in every single situation and say, hey, look, how would you like it if I gave you, boom, $100,000 in angel, and you just cut it right back to me in paying my recruiting fees, right? Yeah. And so it was kind of a fair trade of service for equity. Yeah. So,
and that's the creative entrepreneuring. And that's what helps people to make money and to leverage up and to become somebody else, is structuring deals efficiently. That's a very efficient way to structure a deal. And it's exciting, and it's also creative. So I love Mr. Wonderful talking about Shark Tank. He always comes in with a royalty deal. Yep. It's not standard, and they call it greedy, but it's creative. And so I love a creative deal, and so I'm always looking for creative deals in the work that we do.
Excellent. So you'd mentioned that over the years you put out a few competitors out of business. How do you generally approach the competition in your industry? Are these guys like 100% foes? Are they allies? Are they vendors? Are they clients? Talk me through it.
So the LED market never had companies that did what I did when I started. So there was never an LED company that went into your business, assessed your needs, not only sold you the fixtures, but installed them and carried the warranty on the fixtures and the install. So that was our unique proposition. We were just different in the fact that we were 100% turnkey. Tesla goes direct to the consumer without sending you through the dealership. We were going direct to the consumer without sending you through the dealership. So when I started, nobody really wanted to sell to me. So I had to buy LEDs from somewhere. Luckily, I had a mentor, I had a partner, and he got me my start. But all these other guys who I could have been buying from, they didn't want me in their space. And so it was interesting because over time, they've now done what I'm doing, or they've gone out of business. So they've either started to do a turnkey division, or they've gotten really, really low in their sales, or they've gone out of business completely. So it's been interesting to see that. And it's been a 12-year run for me. It didn't happen overnight. There's a lot of networking events people didn't want me at. There was a lot of people who didn't like me because I was the call it the Elon Musk, and that's putting a little too much on. I was the disruptor for the business. And so, I'm happy where I'm at now. Those people who weren't happy back then, they're generally friends with me or they're interviewing with me.
There we go. Hopefully you close them.
That's how it goes.
So let me ask you this. I know myself, whenever I come up with new business ideas, invest in developing new verticals where I can still utilize the relationships that I have today, much like what you're doing right now, going from National LED to National EV. In the beginning, it takes a little bit of momentum to get the ball rolling, right? And you're encountering obstacles. So my question is how do you cultivate a positive mindset to overcome self-doubt whenever maybe things are starting a lot slower than you had anticipated?
And it's not even starting a lot slower. It's that pit feeling in your stomach when you're going back to call on somebody and you're like, all right, I've met this guy, I've assessed his needs, I've given him a proposal, I've followed up, but damn, I got to get that signature. I got to go back in his office. So funny story, Bill Offenberg, who owns Westside Chevrolet, one of my good friends, he has an energy contract. And there's not a ton of money for us in the energy contracts, but I like to do them. I like to broker energy on the side just because it's fun. So I'm back at his office one day and I've got the contract in my hand and I'm standing outside of his door and I can tell he's meeting with somebody, but it's an internal guy, so I know it's not a big deal if I walk in. And that pit feeling in my stomach is like, hey, Josh, he's busy, turn around, go home. And I had a coworker with me. I was like, we were in a rush. And I'm so scared to go back in. And this is kind of like a friend of mine, so I'm like, I don't want to bug him. Funny part was he has a security camera, so he's watching me sit there debate this outside of his door, and he goes, Josh, come on in. And so I go in, we end up talking for a few minutes, and he signs the deal. And so I go back to the office, and I'm thinking to myself, this is a note to myself and a letter to my company. If you ever have the doubt in your stomach, if you're ever scared, you're doing something right. If you're not scared, and you're not somewhat intimidated, or if you're not pushing your boundaries, you're not going to your full potential. And that's how most people live their whole life.
Yeah.
99% of the people out there, they want to stay in their comfort zone. They don't want to get off their couch. They want to work from home. That's not me, that's not you. And so that's just been something that I think about over and over and over again. If I don't have that pit feeling in my stomach, I'm not doing enough.
Man, that's such a great story and a great share. And that's whenever true growth is made, is whenever you do have the confidence to step outside of that comfort zone. So thank you for sharing that, man. That's an awesome story. So how do you manage stress and maintain work-life balance?
Stress is a big one. Luckily I'm in a place that we can do, I wouldn't say like a bad deal, but we can do a deal, not make money off of it, and it doesn't hurt us, excuse me, because we've been in business for so long, built up a cash equity that we're comfortable with. So, I have a routine, and I'm very, my routine doesn't change. So I wake up in the morning, I eat breakfast, I go to work, I get off of work, I go to the gym, I come home from the gym, I eat food, and then I get an hour or two of my alone time at the house, or spending time with a friend or something, and then I go to bed. That's Monday through Thursday. Mm-hmm. I rarely delineate from that schedule. On the weekends, I'm a little more open, but my biggest thing to cope with stress is honestly just my schedule and lifting weights. And that's something obviously somebody's been in the gym lately, so you obviously know something about that. But to me, you got to get those endorphins out, you got to get the sweat out, and that's just the best way to cope with stress.
Yeah. So thank you for noticing. So Josh and I have been friends for about 2 years now, and during that 2 years, I've kind of hovered between 270 and 280. But over the last 4 months, it's been a massive lifestyle change for myself. Really just healthy eating habits and doing active things, right? So a lot of pickleball, volleyball, basketball. And truth be told, I was dating a girl that fitness was like the center of her life, and she was a very positive influence on me, and I lost about 45, almost 50 pounds. And so
From running the streets to running the pickleball courts.
Absolutely, absolutely,
I love
man.
that one. I love that one.
And so yesterday, I was out on the golf course with my VP of Legal, Christy Lyles, and I posted a picture with the golf club, and I said, "Hey, clubbing has a whole new meaning when you're with your VP." But so no, just healthy habits and. I'm working up the confidence to get in the gym. I'm not putting up big weight like you yet. So I'm trying to overcome that mental hurdle of being next to a guy that's smaller than me, that's lifting heavier than me.
All right, new goal is to send you an invite every time I go to the gym.
Where do you work out?
I've got a membership at Covenant. I've got a membership at O Athletic. I like to swim, so I'll you might catch me hopping a fence to get in an apartment pool.
There you go.
And then I think I'm going to join Faucet 7. So I coping with stress, I do have multiple gym memberships, and it's because I like the camaraderie of going to the gym.
Yep.
It's something where you're in a totally different atmosphere. It's not the bar where you're going to socialize, but you go to the gym, cut it up with some friends, lift some weights. I probably do more talking than working out most times, but hey. Go O Athletic.
There we go. No, and thank you for sharing that, because my experience has always been everybody's got their head down and they're focused and they don't want anyone to bother them. But it sounds like there are some communities where maybe camaraderie is a little bit welcome. So I need to check out O Athletic for sure. So let's change the subject. Let's talk about the greatest challenge or hurdle that you've ever had to overcome in your entrepreneurial journey.
There was a time when I was thinking about quitting, and I say that I need to say it lightly. So there's rebate programs in Texas where you can get a rebate if you install LEDs somewhere, and this is big back when I first started, right? So the deal was I would sell car dealership LEDs. It would be $500,000. They would get a rebate from an entity that would be for $250,000. So that would sell my deal for me. I'm basically going in and selling something and say, hey, I can get you a 50% discount on what you're buying.
Yep.
And the numbers started to back up over the years, 50%, 40%, 30%, and now it's about 20. So I go, I'm doing an audit, and the inspector comes. The inspector tells me, oh, this isn't right. I disagree with him. I say, hey, it is right. He says, no, it's not right. I say, okay, you're right. You're correct. I say, I'll fix it. I say, I need an hour to fix it. He says, no, you're not going to get the rebate. So I'm probably 21, 2, 3, or 4 at the time. This gentleman's a little older. He's talking down to me and being respectful to him. And this was probably the first time I lost it work-wise. So I ended up using some words that weren't kind. He ended up not liking those. He called his management, and they actually told me, they said, hey, we're not going to put you back in the rebate program. And I'm thinking, how am I going to sell? This is like half of my business. Long story short, it ended up working out. Nothing bad happened, but it was really, really scary because there for a short period of time, I thought I was going to lose half of my business. And so, that had me thinking, okay, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do different? This was my sole income. I bartended for 6 months while I started my business. And then once I made my first big sale, I quit bartending. So now, you're a year in, you're providing, you're hoping for that income, right? You don't know if it's coming because you're just starting. So that was a really scary time. And I would say if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have times you've gotten kicked in the ass. I know I could ask you 3 or 4 stories. The recruit that went wrong, the deal that went bad, the money that didn't get paid, the person that told you not to go into business. I told my mom and my dad when I was starting my company, both of them sounded confused. You went to school, you're not going to get a good job at Dell.
Yep.
You have a college degree, you're not going to pursue what you're doing now. And, for me, I still remember the phone call with both my mom and my dad. I still remember telling them, and they just weren't uppity. And so, long story short, I'm sure you've got one you can share.
So, man, you shared a story that truthfully, I think I'd completely forgotten about very intentionally, but very similar experience. I was farther along in our entrepreneurial lifespan, but this happened about 2 or 3 years ago. I was on a job order intake call with HR generalist, who is typically our point of contact, and then a hiring manager that was working for one of their divisions in like Boulder, Colorado. And I don't know what stick was up this guy's ass that day, but he was just talking down to me constantly. And, we're talking about engineering principles and very sophisticated technologies. And maybe he didn't know that it was the founder on the other end of the phone, myself, right? And he thought I was some pimple-faced 22-year-old recruiter straight out of
Which
college.
you probably were at the time.
Yeah, exactly. But man, he was digging into me, and now I know what mansplaining feels like, being on the other end of that. And then he said something, and I said, yeah, I know what that is, right? I'm a mathematician, And
That deal went down the drain?
The deal went down the drain, dude. And the guy completely blew up at me, ended the phone call. I'm sitting there left with the HR generalist. She apologizes to me because she could see the ball rolling and me getting ready to erupt. What's up?
Good, keep going. I got a story I got to share.
And then afterwards, I called her back and I say, Rebecca, this is what's going on in my personal life. Golly, it had to have been 5 years ago because, I just gotten served papers from my ex-wife for divorce. And, he was in a mood, I was in a mood. And 2 days later, I get a phone call saying, hey, we're terminating your contract. This is $1 million a year account for us. And we're a service business, right? So it's all gross margin. So $1 million a year in gross margin completely evaporates out of thin air because I lost my cool. And so I could have just, crawled up into my shell, cried about it. But I said, golly, if only the people at corporate knew what events had culminated in order to lead into me losing my cool. And so actually I went to our IT director. We were able to pull the call recording. I was able to get that. I sent it to the HR generalist. I said, hey, I know you don't owe me anything, but we've done about 100 deals together before this happened. And so our credibility, my work ethic, our technical competency.
Smart for saving the sale. You can never blow a sale.
And so you're absolutely right. And so I gave her the call recording and said, would you mind graduating this to executive leadership? So 2 days after that, I get a call from the senior VP of talent acquisition. She apologizes to me for the client's behavior, says that she'll have a discussion with them, and then they reinstated us as a preferred vendor. So I lost that $1 million account for about 5 days, bro.
Good, hey, yeah. It gives you a firm kick in the ass to remind you what not to do again.
Oh, my God.
2 big things from your story. One, you can never blow a sale. That's something that most people don't know. They always think the sale is lost. When I'm talking to somebody and they say, oh, the deal's done. We already, deal's done. I'm like, did you cut the check yet? No, but we're going to. If the competitor hasn't been paid, I don't care if you sign paperwork. I'll go and I will still meet with the client to tell them why they should do business with me over somebody else. The second thing is, if people ever talk down to you or they're rude to you, they're always doing that because of something in their personal life. So that's something you got to remember. We do cold calls in the office. We have our guys, and they're like, oh, man, that was a terrible phone call. He was so mean. They hung up on me or they cursed me out or we go on the street and we walk into warehouses and we go introduce ourselves and we've been chased out of them. I'm going to call the cops. You parked in the wrong parking spot. Who are you? Why are you here? The people that are rude to you have something bad going on. Number one, make friends with them. See how you can help them. Number two, the people that are good to you, they've got good things going on in their life. Be friends with them.
Absolutely. Both great shares. So we've talked about big failures. Now I want to hear a story about maybe one of your greatest accomplishments in your career.
Yeah. So I got to tell my full circle life story. So I started out Louisville, Kentucky, moved to Houston, got into the Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship. I'm in the Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship and guest speakers coming. Champ Warren shows up in his flashy suit, black Ferrari, and everybody's just in awe. And this man gives the best 30-minute guest lecture I've ever heard in my life to this day. So he leaves, and everybody sits there, and they're like, I'm going to go intern with him. I'm going to work with him. I'm going to call on him. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to get a job with him. So fast forward a month later, I called on him. I'd wrote him a letter. I'd interviewed with him, and I was the only person to write a thank you card. I was also the only person to show up with a book bag and show them research I had done on the ultra high net worth private banking division of Merrill Lynch. Champ was running $4 billion. And so I ended up beating out a Harvard student and a Rice student. And all of these people that were interviewing, they were very mathematically inclined. They were very, very smart. I'm not a smart cookie, Jeremy. I'm just good at sales, and I try really hard.
Yeah.
So I end up getting the internship. Champ comes up to me the last day and he goes, hey, you're not an analyst. This role's not for you. He said, you need to go out. You need to find a good sales role. You're a good salesman. Salesmen make a lot of money. So I go, I drop off my business plan that I had in college to a guy named Al Ross. He owned National Signs at the time. Al didn't call me, so I called him. He didn't call me, so I called him back, left him a voicemail. So I had his cell phone number, and I'm chasing this guy, Al, down. This is a good story for anybody that's in sales to hear or that's interviewing. So after about 15 phone calls, 15 voicemails, stopping in 3 times, I'm on vacation, and I get a phone call, and it's Al Ross. And he goes, hey, what the fuck? Why'd you stop calling? And I go, excuse me? He goes, yeah. He goes, you were interviewing for me. You just didn't know it. He goes, I already talked to Champ. I know who you are. He goes, I want to hire you. But he goes, I was seeing how many times you would call me because we were looking at hiring you for sales, and good salesmen don't stop until they get a firm no. He goes, and even sometimes a firm no isn't really a no. So long story short, I worked for Al Ross for 1.5 years. I sell the biggest deal in the 25-year history, and then I put in my 2 weeks. I start bartending, and while I'm bartending, I started my company, National LED.
It's funny, man. That's such an inspiring story, and I've got some similar stories kind of very early on in my career as well. But one thing stood out to me, and I didn't even make the connection until just now. So Champ Warren, you said he had about 4 billion AUM at the time. I think it's probably closer to 9 billion now. I own an executive search firm, and Wealth Advisors is the biggest vertical that we participate in. So he's on our radar. We're trying to woo him every single day.
You dropped
Warren Wealth Management. Doesn't that have a good ring to it? Yeah.
You mentioned my name, and you'll get directly in.
Yeah.
I've connected my brother with him.
Yeah.
There was a picture of myself and Warren Buffett on the wall in Merrill Lynch's office for about 1.5 years, and the person who took it down was my buddy who I got a job there because he said he was tired of seeing my face on the wall every day next to his desk, so he took it down.
That's hilarious. So funny story. So you hosted a business boot camp last summer, I think it was, and very gratefully, thank you. You invited me to be one of the speakers for that. And there was a young man that was in the audience that day, and if memory serves, it was Champ's his son.
Super brilliant
What's
guy.
his name?
I cannot wait to see how successful he becomes.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
So I'll tell you. So he walks up to me and he says, Mr. Jensen, I know you. And I have no idea who this kid is. He's probably 19 years old at the time, sitting there. And he tells me so one time I was driving to Katy to go see my kids.
They probably raced you down the highway.
No, and so I'm stopped at the stoplight on the feeder road at Fry Road to turn left. He chased me down. He gets out. I'm in my Audi R8 at the time, and he says, hey, I want to let you know I take photographs of exotic cars, and I would really love to photograph your car. Here's my card, right? Follow me on Instagram, and I'll follow you back. So I said, holy shit, man, this kid is a hustler. So I followed him on Instagram. He followed me back, and then he had been following me for like 2 years on Insta. So when he saw me in this business boot camp, right, he was like, hey, dude, I know all about Jeremy Jensen. And so it was just awesome. I mean, at the time, he was probably 16, 17
He's
years
going to
old.
be the next big thing.
Yeah.
Just from his demeanor, and his dad coaches him, and his dad's a really, really smart person. Very, very business-minded. But it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up, because I think he's 18 now. Give him until he's 28.
Yeah.
At 38, he'll be on to really big things.
Well, I mean, you've got a dad. I don't want to make assumptions, but let's say dad makes 10, 15, 20 million dollars a year, whose enterprise value of his business is upwards of 50, 60 million bucks. The natural progression of a young hustler's career is to maybe take over dad's practice. Is that sometimes not a great strategy? Let's talk about that. How do you feel about that?
I've got family in real estate. I wanted to go into real estate, and my family actually pushed me out of it a little bit because they said, hey, we want you to go out there. We want you to find your own way. And I think, there would be ways to get back in that today if I wanted to. But, I was kind of pushed away from the family business to go and get my own feet under me. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If my family had a $50 million a year reoccurring, revenue business, I would 100% want to jump in that. But, my dad bet the house on the farm several times, or is it the farm on the house?
Yeah.
He did that several times, and he mentions there was a lot of stress and signing your name on that paper when you've got a big development and you need some back cash. So I have nothing against people who are in the family business. I hope that what I have becomes a family business. I'm looking for a wife.
Hey, we're in the same. We're in competition of the same pool, so watch out. Cut that out, Gabe.
Hey, matter of fact, I saw you were at a good pool party yesterday. I was thinking, damn, now I know why you didn't invite me. So, anyways, I'm distracted now and kind of got lost on that
worries.
story.
So you want to create generational wealth, and hopefully you have an asset one day that your children want to work in and are proud to work in, right? But it sounds like you're doing it in a very cool way because you've got your businesses that do service and installation, right? Sales, service, and installation. Those are high margin, high return kind of cash flow businesses. And then you've got very asset intensive real estate portfolio assets where you're signing your name on the house, right? And leveraging your own personal assets for that debt, right? But that's what I've seen contribute to creating generational wealth is how can I buy an asset today that's maybe worth $3-4 million, take 70% leverage, and then over the course of 15-20 years, now it triples or quadruples in value. That's how you really move the needle from a wealth building standpoint. So you shared a story earlier about how Champ's personal branding, right? The black Ferrari, the shiny suit, the 30-minute presentation, how his personal branding led to a massive bench of people that wanted to go work for him and make him money in order to launch their career. My question for you is as I've seen you really invest more time and attention into your social media strategy over the last year, how does personal branding play a role in your entrepreneurial success?
Yeah, so, one person who's mastered the game of social media success is Grant Cardone. You think about it, this guy's like 65 years old. He's got millions of followers, and he's probably raised more money off of social media than any other individual in the world. And, his advice, I've gone to his business boot camp. They are excellent. They're very business focused. They're not just all real estate. They really tell you how to run a company, how to run a sales team. But the biggest thing there is those who don't know you can't flow you. And so if you're not marketing your company and you're not marketing your name, then you can't get deals. You have to go out, either do cold calls or wait for warm leads to come in. One way to expedite that and to exponentially grow is every time you do a job, you should be telling 1,000 people about that job. Well, how do you tell them? You take a picture or you take a video and you post it.
Yep.
And so what's easier, for me to call 1,000 people and explain to them what I did, or for me to make one post and for everybody to be able to see it? And so it's, I hid our business for about 10 years. I really stayed quiet because we were doing so much in revenue. I didn't want everybody to see us. I didn't want people to come after me. I didn't want people to get the idea to sue me. I didn't want people to get the idea to compete with me. And I didn't want people to know we were successful. But your branding is your biggest asset right now. Because if you lose your website and you lose your current customers, the people that know you can still call you. And so we've been in this meeting for, not even an hour. And I've got, 10, 12 missed phone calls and text messages. And that's probably either, new business that I'm trying to drum up or people that have found me online or people that are getting referrals from me. And so it's just good to have that out there.
Man, now I'm embarrassed because I've only gotten 8 Instagram notifications and no phone calls.
Well, that's because you sent out so many DMs.
Oh, get out of here. No way. So, I know I had some of the same, hurdles. I hid my business from social media probably for about 6 years, because I own a recruiting company. A lot of talent are on there. And so, that was the first medium that I utilized in order to create brand recognition and credibility. But I'd always really shied away from doing content marketing on Facebook or Instagram, maybe because I didn't like the way that my skin looked in a video, right? Or I didn't like my weight.
It's that gut feeling. I'm scared.
I'm scared, and really it was, posting that first video and getting those words of affirmation from people that really wanted to follow the brand and be loyal as a consumer, right? That actually was interested in what I had to say. That gave me the confidence to keep posting. Now, granted, every single post, I'd probably lose 5-7% of the people that followed because they wanted to self-select out. But then the trust, bond, rapport, and credibility that was established with the other 93% that stayed, that's what helped us snowball, right, into a brand that people wanted to come work for, right?
Yeah.
And so, that was really my social strategy was, I don't need to talk about why we're a great recruiting firm and why you should hire us to find good people. I wanted to show why we were a great employer, right? Because if I could have access to great people to come make me money, then all of the other, challenges would essentially solve themselves, right? But I was scared of that criticism. I was scared of that feedback. Give me a story about how maybe you were met with criticism or negative feedback and how you were able to overcome that.
I got a big ego, so that's a hard question to answer.
Yeah.
I don't think that, I was ever met with criticism where,
you just blocked them first so they didn't get a chance to talk more shit.
I mean, the only thing, I'll tell you this. When I first started, our company name was LED Lighting of Houston. And I had so much fear in changing it to National LED. And we were already doing deals outside of Houston, outside of Texas. But my mentor, his company's US LED. And I didn't want the same name as him because I was kind of scared because they're similar. But, when you look at it, we're in a multi-billion-dollar industry. We both have tiny, tiny fractions of the business, but I wanted to change my name for so long, and the fear of being criticized for being too closely related to one of our partners scared me. We ended up doing it, and it was the best decision I ever made. We had to completely, we didn't even rebrand. We just made a whole nother website, left the existing website. And it really worked out. I'm telling you, anytime you get that pit in your stomach that tells you you've got some fear, that's when you've got to move forward.
Awesome, man. Thank you for sharing. So I know you well, so I know that you have a lot of fun, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you're back to the grind during the week. So how do you maintain strong work ethic while still having a fun and social lifestyle?
So I'm really driven right now because I've got big expenses. So I've never, I may spend a lot on like dinners and, going out and,
OpEx.
But I never buy expensive, we'll call it liabilities, expensive things that don't return some type of revenue to me. So right now, I had a boat a couple of years ago. I split it with somebody, which was the first smart thing I did. I sold it for more than what I bought it for, which was the undeniably second smart thing I did. But, now I've got a boat and a lake house that I'm looking at, and these things I want, and I can afford them, no problem. But they drive me to think, okay, I'm going to buy that. What if I find a new client today, and what if I get a new client that gives us the money? And so then it's like I'm not even spending any of my money in my bank account, but this new deal is going to pay for it. And so I'm always looking for that goal, right? Like something that I'm reaching for, and that's just the way I put my mind to it. Like, what can I work towards? I've got my mom taken care of. I've got my family. If they ever need anything, they can always call. I've got a house that's paid off, vehicle that's paid cash. So I don't have a lot of liabilities, but I'm always looking for like, hey, what's a way I can challenge myself to make a few more dollars? And so right now, just since you asked, it's the lake house and the boat. And so I'm thinking, okay, what new clients am I going to get to help pay for that?
Yeah. It's funny because you and I are similar in the sense that, I don't think that we do it for the money. We do it for the thrill of the chase and the thrill of the win, right? I'm a very competitive individual, and, I want to constantly outdo myself. Do I look at the competition? Of course. I like to see what they're doing, what verticals they're doing it in, how they're doing it. But at the end of the day, if I could just get, 1% better every day, 10% better year over year, whether it become personal and professional development, wealth building, etc., I know that I'm achieving my goals.
I don't mind winning. I hate losing. That's my big thing. I love doing deals with people. I love doing deals. I like to do deals because I like people.
Yep.
And then I like a challenge. Everything we do, every deal that I close, I try and always close a bigger and a bigger deal. Mm-hmm. So if I close a 1 million, I try and go for a 1.5. Close a 1.5, try and go for 2. And so every deal I'm doing, I'm always working on something bigger because I like the challenge. And I like to network with really smart people. The higher these deals go, the more intelligent people you get with, and I just like people and I like to do fun things.
Absolutely. So you've had a lot of W's in your career. You've bought the fancy cars, the fancy vacations, the extravagant dinners. How do you continue to outdo yourself with regards to celebrating big milestones?
So funny story, bought the fancy cars. So I bought a Tesla in 2017 I still haven't got.
Yeah?
So they came out with the Roadster.
Okay.
You could put $50,000 down.
Sure.
And they would deliver your car when they came out with it. They just built the Austin factory, which is where they said they're going to build them, and now they announced they're going to do the Cybertruck first. Oh. So I have a receipt in my email for $50,000 for a $250,000 car.
Yeah.
That I paid for 5 years ago. If I put that $50,000 in Tesla, do you know what I would be worth right now? Like $38 million. Who's smarter, me or Elon?
Oh, man.
Fucker got me.
Yeah, he got you and a lot of people, that's for sure, man. So that bridges a question. Is Tesla just the world's largest Ponzi scheme?
No, dude. I love Elon, man. I could never say anything negative about him.
Well, good. So what's one valuable piece of advice that you would give to a young entrepreneur that might be facing adversity right now?
So your biggest goal is to find a good mentor. Mm-hmm. I cannot tell you how many mentors I went through, and you want to be a little bit of a pest, right? Like when you're young, adults forgive you for being a pest, but adults also like to talk about themselves. They like to tell you how smart they are. And so if I was going to give any advice, I think that was the question as I ran on. Okay, if I was going to give any advice to somebody, it would be to find a mentor. Let's say you're 18 and you're watching this. I'll go ahead and admit there's 2 people in the room. One's wealthier than the other. So
I'm just 5 years older than you.
DM Jeremy, and if he doesn't answer your DMs, call his office. If he doesn't return your voicemail, write him a letter. That's the problem with the generation right now is they're so soft. And you've got to understand that if you want something, you stop at try number 1, 2, or 3, you don't deserve it. And so that's why I like sales, because I like to work for the sales that I have. The biggest account that I have right now probably be somewhere between $6 to $10 million over the next 12 months, one client. And I worked really hard for that client. By the way, I got told no. I got told go away. I got told it's not happening. We've already got somebody. But number 5 was a little different. Number 5 was, well, I need this. Do you have this? Can you help me? I just right place at the right time. And the more you follow up, that'll happen. Right place at the right time will happen if you constantly follow up. So whether it's a job, advice, a sale you're trying to make, or a girl you're trying to get, don't stop at try number 1.
Man, thank you for sharing that. And I think that big $10 million client might own my building.
They do. The big man is upstairs. I've been in his office. Super nice guy. Won't mention him publicly. As entrepreneurial as it gets. And that's just where I'll leave that at. But, it's good for me because now I got a $10 million client. Yeah. So what's next? $20 million client.
Absolutely.
And those are the deals that I'm always looking for. That's why, I always carry a nice pen. I always carry a moleskin, and I'm always ready to do a deal.
Awesome, man. Well, I know I'm going to do 2 things after this podcast. I'm going to buy a nice pen because I got my little G2, right? And then I'm going to buy a moleskin because you've been very, very informative and inspirational, man. It's been awesome to see your growth over the last 2 years. And coupled with the business growth, I've seen a tremendous amount of growth personally in your humility, your gratitude, and who you spend your time with. So awesome, man.
Appreciate that.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.